I'm back at 3:39 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, February 27, 2022 in New Jersey, right outside New York City. All right. Here's another kind of odd coincidence. Not to take this too seriously, but it is pretty interesting. You'll see here after waking up from sleep after like 7 or 8 hours later, I went and on my channel, my main channel. I didn't notice much of anything. I might have noticed. I don't even know if I noticed the views. Maybe 113 or something sticks in my mind. So anyway, after that, I started looking at videos because I might have other videos coming out. Started sort of working on them. Anyway, I went back to my channel, refreshed it, and it caught my eye that this is what was on here. There was 119 views. If you don't know the story of the last video, that it was 119 in reverse since the length was 1109, I believe it was. Though it didn't show that originally, but I noticed that after I watched that video, after I had done it, and I said, it said 119 instead of 120 that you would notice on my main channel, where all the videos are shown. I thought I'd show this also. This was brought to my attention of another correlation to this, another coincidence, that there was 47 views at that point that I showed that video, which equals 11, and 9 thumbs up. So again, there's sort of a in reverse 119 situation. And again, it's the timing of these things that it was just at that point that I showed the screen, and that's how many views at that moment there were, and that's how many thumbs up. So whatever. But then again, getting back to this, what I just told you, after like 8 hours later, and this just happened again right at that time, I saw at that moment. In other words, it corresponded the time. I could have seen it, there could have been one less, whatever. I don't mean to get too crazy about all this, but maybe if I was a minute or whatever, a few minutes earlier, it would have been less than that. And then I want to show you this. I immediately went back, refreshed it, and it was immediately 120 views. Then you'll also see here that the most recent video I did, which preceded the one that I explained about, that I had just done, which it was 119, it ended up being the one preceding that. This is the explanation for it says 219. So I sort of reversed that 912. So that kind of reminded me of a 9 and 1 and 1 duplicate event, or 9 and 1 and 1 2, or a second event similar. So I'm always reluctant to take too seriously, or especially to show myself with myself or others videos like this involving numbers. Though of course it can happen, but I don't make too much of such things. I just take it as it is and say, that's interesting. It seems like more than a mere coincidence. Although I'll say this much, and I think it needs to be said, I do believe that there's definitely things such as coincidences between anyone, people who are saved or not saved, that just seem to happen, that seem strange. Just as there's free will that God gives, in the world, that God's perfect will isn't in this world, it's only in heaven. So the idea that everything is God's will that happens, it's not accurate from that perspective, because God does not will the evil things that happen to us, to others, and in this world. Although it happens, and we could say it's allowed to happen, but it's not his perfect will whatsoever. And we may wonder, well, why doesn't he stop these things and just let it be his perfect will if that's the case? Especially with things that don't seem to be anyone's fault. Though, of course, obviously, God can override those things, and we see that in our life. We see amazing things that happen to us, or our protection, or stances going in our favor, where we see his protection and see his care for us. That's different. I had no idea I was even going to touch on this, but I think it is an important thing to realize, because many people, even believers, can be upset and blame God, especially those who are unsaved. So I think God isn't going to interrupt history and interrupt everything, at every time to stop something, but in his appointed time, according to man's free will and according to life and time and just moving through time and things happening. We know there's good and bad that happen to all, not just the unsaved, but to the saved alike. So I think it's important to mention that. Maybe there's someone out there who feels that way and can get understanding and comfort of what I'm saying. God's on our side despite all those things. We may wonder why. Some may even think, well, why has God abandoned me? Why has he let this happen? Or when will he answer my prayer? Why doesn't he do something about whatever it is? I think the answer is that he will. He definitely will. And in the end, it'll all be made right, all of it. Every single thing about us, about existence, about life will be restored back to complete wholeness and normality, and all wicked will be judged and out of sight, and the righteous shall live forever with God, with Jesus, without any of those things, any of those problems whatsoever anymore. The former things will no longer exist, and really no memory of it, of whatever it is, whatever we went through in this life. That moment is approaching very swiftly here. I truly believe that, although no one knows exactly when Jesus will appear, but I think he's coming. He's ready to come and take us to leave here. And all I just said will become a reality in a good way forevermore. All right, I hope I helped someone a little bit. So I'm going to end here just briefly touching back on what I came to talk about here. So if there's a second 9-1-1 type event looming here any moment, I'm not at all for speculation, but I'm just gonna say that I think something is major is about to happen. That the video I did as far as even a military person saying emphatically that don't be surprised. In other words, expect imminently a cyber attack. That's the first thing. And I think, like I had mentioned, something may be ready to be set off with Israel and Syria and Lebanon and Iran and Russia and who knows who else getting in on the act here if something goes off there. And whatever's going to happen that might flare up any moment here with the tense situation, that could go thermo. And then the video before these that I did about all the Hasidic Jews in New York City sending their kids and unmarried children or young adults off to the Catskills suddenly, to their summer cottages, which are all boarded up right now in the middle of winter, suggesting that they're not there for a vacation, they're there for safety because something seems to be going down, and maybe they know about it, because the explanation was that this is the same exact thing that happened right before September 11th incident happened in New York City with the raising of those skyscrapers, and there seemed to be a warning of the same thing somehow with the Jews, Hasidic Jews, not to go near there and to not go to work, apparently, if that's getting my story straight. right before that happened, and they weren't there when that took place, and comparing that to right this second, that maybe that's happening. And again here, and that's the reason why this is going on. But in relation to something that has said to have been spotted right in New York right now, that could detonate and cause this to go off. If you didn't see that video, then go back and listen to it if you don't know what I'm talking about. That something has been spotted that could lead to this, and it could be any moment. So it was said that maybe that's the real reason that they're going there, sending their kids off there right now, so they're gone from the area, as opposed to just a general kind of warning or sense that because of the Ukraine situation, that's the reason why they may be concerned. I have no idea. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe this has credence, maybe it doesn't. I just reported on it. Again, I just did a video on it like a reporter. So if you want to, I don't know, make conjecture even more, which I'm trying not to do, but the event in New York City on September 11th took place on a Tuesday. And also there's a video I plan to put up after this, which the person, I'm not sure if he's a past minister to wherever in Europe, but his statement was that tomorrow the Russian economy will collapse. Again, he said tomorrow the Russian economy will collapse. I'll show that video, and you could hear such things and a few other comments by him after this. So once more, I don't know if that is true, if it will happen, or what he means by that, but he seems pretty adamant and sure, matter of fact, in the way he said it. Also, the stock market opens on Monday. So, I mean, just in a general sense, it seems like there's a lot of things converging here any second within maybe the next few days. It seems like it could be more of a likely time immediately here to at least be concerned about and watch out for, though we're going to be watching out, of course, every time, every day, but we're waiting for the rapture. We don't want to be worried. We don't want to be overly concerned. And also I came across a few videos last night of dreams of this same thing involving this happening. Not only, it was said, in Manhattan, but all of New York City. So I don't know. There was another one mentioning a plasma BOMB, and then on Israeli News Live, that video that talked about this with the Hasidic Jews leaving and all that, and something apparently has been located in New York City right now, though it's really not being said anything about it. Maybe I don't know. I can't confirm any of this. A lot of times I don't listen to all this stuff because someone has so-called intel. It's always, you hear, my intel tells me, or their intel. I don't know what to say. I don't mean to laugh at it, but I mean, it could be true, but I just haven't really been able to take such things seriously in the past for certain reasons with a lot of these individuals. And no, I'm not making light of what was said by him in, stating all that. I'm not at all, but I'm just saying it's uncertain. I don't know how that can be proven or not. And also specifically, he mentions a dirty BOM and then B. If you don't know what that means, it means it emits a great amount of radiation and radiation that could spread outward and cause contamination in the area. I don't know how far. I didn't research that. But I think it's safe to say if something like that did happen, then New York would pretty much be a total ghost town. And finally, again, this is totally not something that's said that's going to happen. It's just conjecture. Can't say, either way about this. If it will be 9 and 1 and 1 part two or not, if and when that takes place. But it feels like to me something major, major, major is in the works. I just keep feeling that, and the tension of things. So I'm here in New Jersey, fairly close to this, but in a safe enough distance, I feel, if that took place. Now, I witnessed September 11th firsthand, right on the coast of New Jersey, right on the bay overlooking New York City. In other words, within not that far, several miles across, there was New York City. You could see it clearly, the buildings, the skyline, the bridges, and I saw what was taking place. I saw the smoke. I saw everything happening, and with people going crazy, trying to contact others on the cell phone, looking out over the bay, crying and in tears. So I experienced that, and then later, a little bit later, when they transported them, they transported mostly all of them to New Jersey because they were they transported the workers who commuted, and most of them worked in the World Trade Centers. And I was there, right there, as they pulled in, coming off the boats, looking disheveled and like traumatized, and many of them had a weird kind of look on their face, like sort of a I don't know, out of it kind of look even. And then I was standing there listening to one guy who just got off there, and he escaped, and some people were surrounding me listening to him, and he said that just a week ago he got transferred from like the 112th floor. I don't know if that's the exact floor or whatever, if it goes that high, but he said it was just a week ago that he was transferred down to the lower, like 30th floor or whatever. And he said that when they heard a big thud, big bang, and then they're on the intercom, the notice to them was for everyone to remain calm and don't go anywhere. And they said to themselves, forget that, we're getting out of here. So they did. They left and they got out of there, and they escaped. And there's also a monument right there, and I used to live right there, up on the highest point in New Jersey. They built a monument with all the names of those people that lived right in the area where I was, right in New Jersey there, who not directly at the shore, but I mean throughout, scattered close by the area in New Jersey, right by where that all happened. And for days afterwards, I could smell the smoke wafting right over us. You could see the plume coming right this way, over me, over us, and the smelled like burning tires kind of smell for days. And anytime you went to go by the shore in one of the stop areas along there that overlooked New York, Manhattan, there was silence. Just people would stand there, and you could just feel this sorrow and this pain that they had, probably because they knew loved ones who perished. And still days later, watching the smoke still rising, and also hearing the stories as I was standing there too when it was happening. That I think that same person who told me that story, that he escaped, he was transferred, said that the explosion sent the papers from the offices flying all the way to Coney Island. And the morning that happened, I was about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 miles away from going to where I thought I wanted to go, to have the overlook view high above at that point in New Jersey overlooking. And a whole group of people, many of them were frantic, and some of them were crying on the phone and watching. As I was looking, of course, I saw all the smoke billowing, but then I saw like a collapse, and I saw it spread out almost like a thermonuclear kind of look to it spreading out. So I saw it at the moment that it fell. The first one fell and the second one fell. And then I took off. I went down the mountain, down the hill, and again, as I said, I went to the pier, and there they were with all the ferries that were coming in, bringing them in. And so I snuck in there right in the middle of all of them, and there they were coming and listening to what they were saying. And again, I was standing next to these other people this other guy came in front of us and started telling us what happened. They were asking him. They had these portable shower stalls set up so they could go in there and decontaminate. It was just a crazy, crazy day. While George Bush sat reading I Pet Goat 2 to a bunch of children, and the news was whispered silently into his ear from someone, and he didn't look too emotive or surprised to me. And so that's the end of that story. I want to say, please don't. I know I mentioned all these things, but if there's comments relating to this, especially very graphic ones, either I believe, not me, I'm not going to take them down, but I believe they're either going to be taken down or, I don't want this video to be taken down, or worse yet, something else happen with me being able to do videos. So please keep that in mind, please. Otherwise, well, if there are, I might, yes, I second thought, I might feel that I would need to take that down, especially if there's agitators or bots or, sock puppet accounts or whatever coming on here and trying to do that on purpose. Then I feel, I sense it, I'll just take that down. So, just be careful of your words, and let's hope that nothing further like this takes place in the next few days. But something deep inside of me, even this second saying this, a sorrow has come over me, whether it happens very soon or at another time. But whatever's going to happen, I think this is going to happen immediately. And there's so many ways that could happen, not just with that. There's so many flare-up points and flash points. And again, I'm not going to get into, and please don't try to speculate who might be the culprit or cause for what might happen or has happened, or mention their names. I mean, I mentioned a name here, but I just would rather leave it alone, leave it at that, or start getting into the theories about what caused those buildings to come down. In case I didn't say, I do realize that, again, that I don't feel that was something that occurred in the way that the cause was said to be outwardly as generally thought. So I'm getting off this topic. All right, that's it. I told the story about what happened and maybe what's about to happen once more. I have no clue what's going on with that trucker situation. Don't forget too, something could happen in D.C. So of a similar nature to what I'm describing here with New York. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I just said it not for any reason. I was just thinking out loud. I don't know what might be happening with that, or is going to happen, or who's setting it up, or the real reason behind it. But we should just be skeptical about a lot of things, a lot of put-ups, put-ons, false Frankies, and I guess you could call them front men who seem like they're for a certain cause, but really they're not. But they're making everyone seem that they are to be, and maybe even be the leaders of such things. Again, like in anything, any situation, there are those with sincere hearts who are true, who want to stick up for rights. So I'm not putting that down or anything whatsoever, and freedoms and so on. So, and that's where the innocent come in, no matter who or what it is, or whatever the situation, whether with the war in Ukraine or anywhere else going on. It's people. People are people. They're humans. And they're not the ones doing these things. There's evil men, evil plots, evil plans, double crosses. You don't know who's in together with who, and they may seem like they're enemies when they're really best friends, like Donald. Now, you might get upset that I said that, but he's seems to be pretty good buddies with Mr. Putin there. And I wasn't going to mention this, but what the heck, I might as well, since there's been such support in patriotism, which is not bad, patriotism for that person, but his original name is Drumpf, if that's how you say it, and I don't know exactly how to spell it, Drumph or something. I was going to, a long time ago, do a video showing the occult symbolism and influences and Masonic indications and associations relating to him. I'm not going to go past that. I didn't say this to start anything either, to foment problems or create issues or invoke comments or invite such responses. But I just said it because really it needs to be said. The only person who's going to drain this swamp is Jesus Christ, and he's going to do it during the tribulation, and especially when he returns, and it'll be bone dry. That's when it'll be bone dry, and this will all be set straight. And God's judgment is upon this man, this Gog. Yes, it is. God said it himself in his word, and I believe it is who's the present leader there in Rosh, which is, I guess, the original Hebrew term, if that's what it is, or whatever. So God said, I'm against you, Rosh of the land of Magog, or Magog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, along with Cush and Put. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but these are other descendants in that whole region that will be involved against Israel with Russia. I don't say that mockingly, but leading this. And when I say that country, it's that man, it's that person mainly, with these other persons in control of other countries. Again, there's people who are innocent and have nothing to do with these things. So there's a lot of people who get slap happy and they're like, let's just nuke them. Yeah, well, how about if others are saying that to you, and that happened to you, and you have nothing to do with those evil people, what they're doing, just because each of us reside at a different country. Each person in their country has their own proper patriotism and ethnic, not use the word pride, that's taken in a different way nowadays, but respect for their own culture. So there are all types of people with hateful and unloving hearts who just, have that attitude, we're better than you, or what have you, or they hate another race or ethnicity, or use derogatory, foul slang terms for people of other, other cultures. Though, of course, this one world push for religious unity and diversity and orientation, and to bring the whole world together to stop all of these things and make the world normal again. That's not going to happen until after the church is gone, after there's judgment, and when Jesus returns to set up his kingdom in the world, the new millennium, where everything will be restored, everything will be back to normal. All this evil, all this plotting, all this harm, and plans that the wicked are doing right now will exist no more. They will exist here no more. And unfortunately, they'll be sent to hell. Yes, we want God to bring justice. Yes, we're furious, just like God is, about evil, and want that to be brought to an end. But we don't want to gloat and glee over others going to hell. And there's a lot of so-called Christians out there. That's exactly their attitude and how they feel. And they're very self-righteous and condemning. And they usually, almost every single time, don't believe in the true gospel. And that's why they're that way. And I've always condemned that and come against it. That there's absolutely nothing whatsoever anyone can do to make themselves saved, or to continue to make themselves saved. Otherwise, they will not be in the end, when the gospel is the exact opposite. Jesus said, I have come to bring them life and more abundantly, and that no one can take us out of God's hands, and that it's forever. He will come and dwell and make his dwelling place within us, put his spirit within us, redeem us, cleanse us, sanctify us, and give us the everlasting hope right this moment, that we're assured 100% that we're going to heaven, and nothing and no one can stop that or say otherwise, despite all those who claim to be Christians who have been trying to do that and fighting tooth and nail against such truth. Once Jesus, his spirit is within one, he will never leave. He cannot never ever leave. We are a new creation. We are one with him by his spirit. Old things have passed away. All things have become new. He puts his spirit, his fruits, his love in us, his light that can be seen, that shines forth out of us, not of ourselves, not of our good works, not of our fruits, his fruits, that we could see Jesus within ourselves. We could sense him, and others can sense that too. And so there has to be an inner birth. And Jesus himself said that, they will show good fruits. In fact, we will know other believers by the fruits that they show. It's not meant to be a contention like this or an issue, because we know what delicious ripe fruit looks like, right? Let's say crack open a cold watermelon, and we don't need any explanation that that's something that we desire and that is going to be delicious, or any kind of fresh picked fruit that's ripe. We see that, so we see that type of thing in relation to each other and in ourselves, although we're not perfect, and we're not perfect, all right? So that's the other excuse that these others want to say, a gospel of perfection or perfectionism gospel, when they don't see and they can't see that they're the ones with the rotten fruits, unfortunately, and those with God's fruits are the ones who have been freely given those fruits and are not of themselves, not of ourselves. Nothing is. That's true humbleness and repentance, and making Jesus Lord of all, and full surrender, fully surrendering to Christ, as the term is put by the self-righteous, with the very purpose of condemning the grace alone message, which is the gospel. Or it's like threatening, you better stay close to Christ or you lose your salvation, that they don't even know that they fully have, that they truly have. They hope in the end they will. When you can't get you can't get any closer to Christ than Christ being within us. You'll hear such people talk about following Christ. I could preach a whole sermon here, or message, or pick up their cross and follow him. We're not co-redeemers. Our cross doesn't mean a darn thing. It's Jesus' cross that matters. He leads us by his Spirit, both to do and to will of his good pleasure, and we are led by his Spirit both to do and to be of his will, of his good pleasure, and in our good pleasure. See the difference? Christ leads us by being within us. We don't follow him in the sense that if we don't do all these things, then we're not going to be accepted. We're not going to finally be saved unless we do this, that, and the other thing, albeit proper and good and nothing wrong with it, things as a believer that one would naturally want to do, whether it's to pray or to read scripture or whatever, or to help others or preach the gospel or what have you. But those are all done by works, in the attitude of works to achieve salvation by those who are self-righteous. So I hope others can see that difference. One is set free, and that's us who are saved by His grace, who know that the truth is within us. So one is set free to know and does know eternal life. The other is in chains and bondage to chase after eternal life that they don't have and will never achieve in that way. Remain self-righteous and in their sin, being deceived that they're holy, they're the holy ones. Everyone else is just a lie. It's a lying, false gospel about God's free gift of salvation. So I covered a lot of things here. Didn't expect to talk about any of this. So I'll be ending things here now. So if you please think about all the things that I said, and again, please try to refrain from certain naming of individuals or going into detail or being very specific about things, not because I might not believe them myself or want to say them, but just for the fact that they won't be allowed to remain. And we can learn to say the things that we want to say in a more roundabout way, but yet saying exactly what we mean indirectly. Again, I'm not saying to do that with all these things. I'm just saying that in general, that's a good way to put it. People have come to my channel. I don't know if they're true believers or not, or who or what they are. A lot of them have nothing on their channel, though I'm sure there's those with nothing on their channel that are true believers. But a lot of them aren't, and they just come in and they start raising havoc. Just from a human being standpoint, they have no manners. They're not polite in any way, show no tact whatsoever, and just really jump all over you or want to start a contention about an issue or doctrine or something like that, or may act very nice and know what they're doing, but in reality they are coming there to start a problem. Can be very condescending, assuming. I guess they just like want to throw their weight around. That's it. I'm through with all this. That's about all I want to say here. All right, take it easy. Bye now.